Hey guys, Ryan here, and I know when I did the Cole Pern video not too long ago, I said that I thought that might be the last one for the year of that style, but I was completely wrong. And oh my, we've got so much news going on. We've got one of NASCAR's top young stars switching manufacturers, which we don't see all that often anymore. We also have drivers from other motorsports coming into NASCAR to run, as well as other driver announcements going on. So let's get right into that. Okay, so let's start off with some of the smaller news here. We had DGR Crosley announced that driving their number 15 truck full-time will be Tanner Gray. And that was probably one of the smaller news announcements, but we also, kind of building up into it, one of the main topics I wanted to talk about today, though, we had James Davison confirm that he's going to be running the Indy 500 and the Daytona 500, just like what Danica Patrick did last year for Bird Racing, which if I did my research, and I believe that's the same Bird Hollinger Belardi team that he's driven for in the Indy 500 in previous years. So I think that in the Indy 500, I think he'll do pretty well. Hard to say though. I mean, we've looked back at literally so many open wheel drivers. I mean, Danica Patrick, who we're gonna end up bringing up later on in the video, but just look at all the open wheel stars. Danica Patrick, Juan Pablo Montoya. I can't remember the other one, but there's just been quite a few open wheel drivers that come over and were absolutely stellar in open wheel cars, and then just do next to nothing or struggle really hard in NASCAR. Especially if the Bird Hollinger Belardi team isn't getting massive help from one of the higher tier organizations like an RCR or a Roush Fenway. I think that he will really struggle, as he is going to be basically having to play catch up from where he started to all the way up. He's going to be having to play back. He's going to be playing catch up pretty much, and to get up to speed in a car quick enough. I mean, yes, you can do it. I mean, Bubba Wallace in the 2018 Daytona 500 proved that you can get to the front in a car that might not necessarily be the best, but I'm kind of not going to try and build up the hype like, oh, James Davison's going to win both. I think if he wins the Indy 500, I think that would be a massive accomplishment. Winning the Daytona 500, I just don't see it happening unless he is partnered with a Hendrick or Stewart-Haas. Like, if he was in a second go fast car, I'd say, yeah, he's probably going to be really good. Or if he's going to be in a second Wood Brothers car, I'd say, yeah, he's probably going to do really well. But, I mean, just kind of looking at it, it's like he's an open wheel driver, hasn't driven a stock car yet to my knowledge. Well, he's probably driven stock cars out on the street, but he hasn't driven a NASCAR stock car yet, to my knowledge, and or at least not anything beyond maybe an Xfinity start here or there, kind of like what Jack Hawksworth did this past year at Road America in the Joe Gibbs 18. But we also have had other instances where we see. We're seeing other open wheel drivers come on in and they are able to get a win, but not necessarily. I mean, Juan Pablo, he was able to win at Watkins Glen. I think that was 2011. I want to say, but yeah, I mean, we've seen open wheel stars be able to come in and get wins, but it was not in their first start by any stretch of the imagination. And in the end, a lot of them just haven't been able to find a whole lot of success, so that's why I would say he probably won't do a whole lot in the Daytona 500, but he will be there, and he will be bringing kind of the IndyCar fan base closer to the NASCAR fan base, which is something I said in a video a couple months ago, how that is something that is desperately needed in motorsports, as the motorsports have a shrinking audience, because any motorsport used to be way up there on the top, and now as all motorsport all across the board are shrinking, having drivers coming across. So like James Davison coming over for Daytona, Kurt and Kyle Busch potentially going over to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the Indy 500. All of that is going to be nothing but good for all motorsports. So as a motorsports fan, I'm really excited to see James Davison, and I'd love to be proven wrong, and I'd love to see him win this race, but I just don't see it with a startup team in Bird Racing. Like, they've done IndyCar, but I don't see them doing and being able to step it up enough to be a contender in their first race. But only time will tell. So here we go, on to the main point of the video, and probably the reason why I'm sure a lot of people clicked on this one. But Hallie Deegan will be leaving behind Toyota, and she is going with DGR Crosley, who is also switching from Toyota to Ford. So with this, I know some people were, like, the rumors have been out for a couple days, and even the official announcement was on Tuesday of this week, but I've just been slammed trying to get other videos done and other prep stuff, so I ended up being a few days late to the party on this one. But she will still not be running truck races despite racing for DGR Crosley. She will be running the ARCA Menard Series, not the ARCA East-West, but she'll be running the full 20 race ARCA season, including like the ARCA Showdown or whatever, where they allow the K&N East and West drivers as well to come up and compete for an ARCA point / season championship within the bigger grand scheme of ARCA, which is kind of confusing, but yeah. So part of the reason behind Hallie Deegan making this decision, and to be honest, I think this is probably the smartest choice for her and her future. You've got to think about it as, first off, she is not currently, I would say, Toyota's top prospect in their development line. They've got Harrison Burton. They've got Christian Eckes. They've got Chandler Smith still hanging around. I don't know exactly where he's at, but I'd say that those three drivers in particular are all above Hallie Deegan in the pecking order. And then you've got guys like Brandon Jones, who's only there because of money. And then you've got guys like Riley Herbst, who's up in Xfinity already. He might be closer to on par with Deegan talent-wise, but he's already to Xfinity, so clearly that shows that Joe Gibbs is putting more of their efforts into him. Then you've got guys like Rafael Assard also taking up a truck seat that Joe Gibbs looked at it, and they put Rafael Assard in that, or, well, not Joe Gibbs, that was Kyle Busch Motorsports, but still Toyota as an organization, because it's pretty much a factory team at this point with Joe Gibbs, Kyle Busch Motorsports, and Toyota. They're pretty much a factory team, so kind of like what you see in F1 with like the Mercedes team. But yeah, and then you even look down into the K&N series where Deegan ran last year. Sure, she might move up into ARCA if they've got an empty seat. But realistically, she wouldn't. I could see Derek Kraus as well, her teammate and now champion of the K&N West Series, which is where Deegan ran full-time for points and wasn't able to outpoint Kraus in that series. So I'd say Derek Kraus probably deserves the spot as well to kind of move up the ladder, which, I mean, not necessarily saying that Deegan wouldn't get some of these opportunities over some of these other drivers, but just looking at how Toyota's kind of moved guys like Herbst up. They've moved Lassard up. Now, whether they're going to perform at the same level that they're expected to or not, Deegan would basically have to wait until those seats either open up or other seats become available. And even if you look at the Cup Series right now, Joe Gibbs has 4 fairly young drivers, and even if you assume Denny Hamlin's retiring soon, then they move Christopher Bell over, then they move Harrison Burton up, and that barely gets her up one more rung in the ladder, as opposed to Ford, who has a very, I would say, shallow development driver pool. You've got Ben Rhodes, Chase Briscoe, Austin Cindric, Trying to think of other younger Ford development drivers. Ty Majeski, he's driven for Ford for a long time. He's actually going to be making starts in a Chevrolet this year, so I don't know what the relationship with Ford's doing, but kind of shows that he might not even be still in that development driver program, but that's 2 or 3 people that Deegan would have to compare to, and as opposed to having to go up through the ranks and outdo like 10 other young drivers, while there's already stable, fairly young, but still experienced veterans in the Cup Series already. I mean, Kyle Busch's spot isn't going to be available for another 3 or another like 10 years probably. Martin Truex Jr., hard to say, but I'd still say his seat's going to be there for 5 to 7 more years. Denny Hamlin, again, he's probably the closest one I could say to potentially retiring, especially if you asked me that prior to 2019. Now, after 2019, he made a resurgence, so I don't really know where I would put Hamlin on that list, but I'd say he's probably going to stay for probably about 5 more years, if not more. Kind of that same realm with Truex. And then Jones, he's fairly young, so as long as they don't kick him out, he'll be there for a long time, probably another 10, 20 years. And then Christopher Bell, he's actually, I think he's a little older than Jones is, but still, he is going to be in Toyota's program probably for a while as well, unless they kick him out. So just so much bloat and drivers over there, as opposed to if you look on, in particular, the Stewart-Haas side, which is where I think probably the leaning is going to be for Deegan, is going to be going up the Stewart-Haas ladder system. They don't currently have a driver in, but they're going to be shrinking down, it looks like, to a 1-car Xfinity program, but they have shown that they can expand to 2 cars if need be for extra development drivers, because Cole Custer moved up, and Chase Briscoe was also in their equipment last year, so they've shown they can move up they can expand to an extra car if Deegan's ready. And even if you look at DGR Crosley in Xfinity or in trucks, they've got 2 seats probably open this year, because I don't expect them to bring back Natalie Decker, and of course they've got the 17, which is probably going to go to Todd Gilliland, although nothing's confirmed. Though I think this weekend would have been a great time to just kind of get out of the water, get their full roster unveiled for next year. But I don't know, maybe Gilliland's still talking with like Thor Sport or GMS or something looking for another top ride. Now, maybe he stays in the Toyota camp somewhere, though I don't think unless he goes to Hattori Racing, I don't see him having really another opportunity in a Toyota truck. So I'd say that there is pretty much, that's a lot of the reasons I can see, because, I mean, if you look at Stewart-Haas, as I was about to go through, they've got Harvick, who will probably retire not too long after Keelan gets to the Cup Series, or gets up into racing. Because I know he said that he wants to race alongside Keelan in, I don't know what series he'd be happy with, like saying, oh yeah, we raced together. But he said that he wants to stay there. Now, I don't know if he'll actually stay there long enough, because Keelan's only, I think, 11 at the most. But yeah, so that would be a while, but he is around the same age that Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and even Tony Stewart were when they all announced their retirement. So, I mean, the performance for him is a little better than some of those other guys. Guys in recent history, so he probably will stay on till maybe he might hit 50 before he retires, but I don't see him going far past that, so probably about another 7 to 10 years probably for him. But then you've got Bowyer. Who knows how long they're going to keep putting up with Bowyer's results. Now, I know he did make it to the round of 12 because Newman missed the chicane, but just kind of shows that there's a potentially empty seat, and considering how long it took them to re-sign Bowyer and Amarola, to be honest, so I guess they're just kind of waiting to see that. So, I mean, that shows that could be a progression. Now, one thing I've kind of noticed that I think could be a major hang-up, especially looking at her ARCA car for next year, which has the number 4, by the way, and Kevin Harvick's a big proponent of Hallie Deegan. But one thing I noticed when looking up there is I see that there is actually that the primary sponsor is Monster Energy, which if she goes all the way up to the Cup Series, and now I guess by the time she gets to Cup, she probably won't have or Kurt Busch won't still be there, but I guess if Monster decides to kind of go back to Stewart-Haas, they could, but I mean they recently left Stewart-Haas with Kurt Busch to go to Chip Ganassi Racing, so I don't know how high up in the ladder Monster would be allowed to go before it's a competing contract with Chip Ganassi. Now it might just be the fact that since Chip Ganassi isn't in any of the lower series, even though they have drivers that they're developing in lower series, that you could see them basically say, "Oh, hey, Monster, come on, we want you spending your money into developing our guys, even if it isn't at our official team, or even potentially could be an extra sponsor for Chastain when he gets up there in a few years." But yeah, so that's kind of another thing that kind of raises a little bit of concern with me looking at the car. At least IK9 also came over with her from Toyota. I don't know what the status is with her in Napa, because I know Napa was on her was Napa and Mobil 1, which Mobil 1, one of Kevin Harvick's sponsors, were on her car as well in ARCA for her I think it was Minnesota win when she bumped Kraus out the way. But in the end, once again, it's like, okay, she at least has Mobil 1 that might stick with her, especially as it's a sponsor that would be able to follow her all the way through the series. And IK9 has left Joe Gibbs seemingly to join Hallie Deegan at Ford. So they will be able to go all the way up the ladder with her and join that Ford Mustang program at Stewart-Haas. Now, I'm going to absolutely say this. I think it's a great idea, though, because she's also going to be running some IMSA sports car races in a Ford GT this coming year, starting in January with Daytona. So I believe that would be the Rolex 24. I haven't looked into the schedule super well to know which, but I'm assuming it's going to either be sometime in the Roar before the 24 or the actual 24 hours of not 24 hours of Le Mans, man. 24 hours of Daytona, the Rolex 24. But it'll be a chance for her to improve, and even self-admittedly, she is not as ready for the road courses, which is something when she gets to Xfinity that she'll need to be very good at. And I mean, even if you look at other drivers, Cindric, he ran IMSA races. Briscoe, he's run in IMSA races recently, and those two drivers dominated the road courses along with Allmendinger in the Xfinity Series the last 2 years. I mean, so I just think it looks like this is just going to be a great way, especially kind of branching out to other motorsports rather than rushing and basically running Eldora, because she could probably pick up the win at Eldora if she has a contending truck. But I don't think that would be as good for her, because she already understands the dirt ovals. She's starting to understand the pavement ovals. But in ARCA, she's going to get to run tracks like Pocono, some of the bigger ovals, especially now that she's 18. She can now run the Daytona ARCA race, the 200 or whatever it's called. But yeah, and she'll be able to learn the road courses and potentially even street courses, getting ready for when NASCAR eventually will probably have added street courses before Deegan gets there. So all in all, though, sorry about the little bit of a ramble here, but all in all, I think this is a great move for Hallie Deegan. The fact that she's going to be running some IMSA races is as well kind of shows that she isn't just looking to move through, and she's kind of said that she doesn't want to move through the ladder super quick, and to be honest, it seems like Ford is granting that to her, and she was also looking for a long-term future, which, of course, seeing a clogged up I mean, I think even in some of her words from the press release on Tuesday, it's like, the Toyota log is already log jammed with drivers, and just like the drivers that they've lost from their teams that have gone to other teams and other manufacturers. I mean, you've got William Byron. He was a KBM driver in the truck series, went to Junior Motorsports, and now is a developing driver, and now is a rising star at Hendrick. You had Ryan Preece go and win some Xfinity races for Joe Gibbs Racing in 2017. 2018, he was driving, and in 2018, I think he also won some Xfinity races, but then in 2019, he was driving for JTG. And then you have guys like Bubba Wallace, not necessarily their top prospect, but he was at Ford, or he was at Toyota with Kyle Busch Motorsports again, and then he went to Roush and then later to Petty in the Cup Series. So, I mean, lots of drivers have ended up being basically displayed by Toyota, like, hey, look at how good these drivers are, and then a Chevrolet or a Ford team goes and says, like, yeah, they are pretty good. Hey, here's some money, you want to come run for us instead? And they end up going, and a lot of them have done pretty well. I mean, sure, Preece isn't in the best equipment and is in that 37 this year as opposed to the 47. And then you've also got guys like Byron who have almost won races already. So I think all in all, though, great move for Hallie Deegan. I'm excited for her future and to see where she goes. Going to Ford, though, I think they're probably the second best manufacturer to go with, apart from Toyota, and the lack of basically drivers in their development line. I think that is a great thing for her, especially as Roush could potentially reopen a car to get extra seat time. Stewart-Haas could open an extra Xfinity car to get some seat time for her, because finding seat time, I think, was self-admittedly one of the harder parts for her at Toyota, was trying to find a chance to get some seat time as opposed to getting beat out by, like, Rafael Assad, who got to run some truck races this year in the 46, or say Christian Eckes, who got to drive in the Kyle Busch number 51 truck. So, but all in all, I'm going to end off this video here before I keep rambling on, but thank you guys all for watching this video. Reminder, if you guys do enjoy this series, hit the like button on the video, subscribe if you guys are new, along with ringing that notification bell so you guys never miss an episode, and remember, links down below in the description if you guys really want to support the channel. Have a great day. Bye!